All right, everybody, welcome back. Today, we are going to talk about the potential breakout candidates for fantasy football in 2025. But before we do, let's take a look at what that means. So we asked ChatGPT, what is the definition of a breakout player in football? They said a breakout player is a player who significantly exceeds expectations, usually by having a much better season than they've had in the past, or emerging as a star after previously being a backup role player or relatively unknown. But more specifically, it can mean in fantasy football, it's not just about being good, but it's about outperforming expectations in a way that wins people games, sets them apart. And today we're going to go over quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We're going to do one of each today. But before we do, I also want to point out the fact that I'm not including rookies in this list. Can't really have a breakout season and improve from the previous season if you never had an NFL season. So obviously, there's some rookies that could exceed expectations, but to me, that feels like a whole nother list. So again, excluding rookies. All right, our breakout candidate for the 2025 season at quarterback is going to be Jordan Love. So he had 2 top 3 outings in his first 4 games. He had a bunch of injuries in the season last year. It's his 3rd year as the starter. And honestly, I think he's going to just explode. I think he might end up being like one of the next top quarterbacks. And as a Vikings fan, I hate to say that, but he does have more talent around him this year. Hopefully, the talent that he already had is healthy. But I think with Josh Jacobs in another season, I think that's really going to help. So let's just take a look at this roster a little bit. I mean, obviously we have Josh Jacobs. We've got Marshawn Lloyd out of USC, who's a great player. He's just a little older at running back. But Josh Jacobs is really going to pound the rock, be the workhorse for them, set up play action, set up bootleg for Jordan Love. But I think where we're really going to thrive is having this wide receiver core really just compete with each other. And also you'll be able to see, like, I mean, with all these guys healthy, these are really talented wide receivers. So we've got Jaden Reed, who was great in the slot, also had some great plays running the ball as well. Romeo Doubs, obviously he's had some issues with the coach, but 50-50 balls, red zone. Christian Watson, I mean, 6'4", 4'3" type speed. You got Matthew Golden, who's drafted in the first round. He's a really good player, really solid. I don't know if he'll be an outright superstar, but who knows? I mean, he definitely has the speed, but he's not really physically imposing. Maybe he'll become a great route runner like a Stephon Diggs, maybe with a little more speed. But we still have Dontavian Wicks as well, who's been really good in the slot. You have Mecole Hardman. So my thought process is that these guys are really just going to sharpen each other and really just do well for Jordan Love. He's going to have a ton of weapons to work with. So in terms of tight ends, Tucker Kraft is really as solid as it gets. He's probably never going to be a superstar, but he's going to, maybe get 8, 9, 10 fantasy points a game. Just going to be solid in the intermediate part of the field, the shorter part of the field. But who really has the potential is Luke Musgrave. This is a guy who could be a Jimmy Graham type. I remember scouting him out of the draft. And if he's going to be anything like he was expected to be at any point, I mean, that's a good safety blanket for Jordan Love. But in terms of the actual safety blanket, I mean, you got Rasheed Walker in his 3rd year. You got Anthony Belton, who they drafted. Aaron Banks, he's getting better and better. Elgton Jenkins, who they've moved all over the place. He's just a great offensive lineman. Jordan Morgan, I really liked him coming out. I definitely saw him more as a tackle, but he's definitely solid. And then Zach Tom's been great. So if these guys can stay healthy, which I don't think they were able to much last year, and a lot of these guys can just stay healthy, I think Jordan Love is going to have a really big year. The next one might come as a little bit of a surprise because it does kind of have a caveat with it. So we've got Trey Benson is our breakout candidate for the Cardinals. When I was scouting him last year, I believe it was, last year, poor man's Adrian Peterson. Struggled a little bit with vision, but boy, is he talented and fast and has home run speed. And We would be banking a little bit on James Conner getting hurt, which he is 30 years old, but he has been paid. He's a great player. But I'm not fully banking on it. And that's why Trey Benson's going to be on this list, because I think, like I said, his biggest struggle was the fact that he needed more experience and vision. And I think you get that with reps. And I think going into the second year with the talent that he has, if he's done any kind of studying, he's going to be far and away way more talented than James Conner. And I like James Conner, but I think it's going to be hard to keep Trey Benson off the field. So with that being said, and how he fits into the rest of the team, I mean, Kyler Murray, did he have his biggest statistical year? I don't think he did. Was he as flashy as he's been before? No. But when you watch Kyler Murray, he was definitely a more mature quarterback. He would take easy passes. They would get him in play action a lot. And I think he would just make more smart plays. And you see that maturation. You know, everyone picks on him for playing video games all the time. But, you know, what would you rather have him doing? You know, going out all the time? I never understood that. But I think it's just going to help having a more consistent pass game and mature quarterback where you don't have to just rely on Trey Benson. And fantasy is about usage, but it's also about opportunity as well, and when you are being used. And I think Trey Benson's going to have a lot of open looks with someone like Kyler Murray. And also with this receiver corps, Marvin Harrison is due for a breakout himself. Michael Wilson's more solid than people like to give him credit for. They also have Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, who had very solid fantasy games, Quez Watkins, who can stretch the field. But the real big guy that we're looking at is Trey McBride, right? He's going to garner a lot of attention in the slot, in the play action. So you know those linebackers are going to back up. You know they're going to wait for that tight end, Trey McBride, to come across the field or make a move in the slot or cut across the field in play action, like I mentioned. So that's just going to be more opportunity for Trey Benson to hit the second level. And then from there, I mean, Paris Johnson Jr. is coming into his third year. He's a really good tackle. Evan Brown, Froholt at center, very solid. Will Hernandez is a big guard. And then you got Jonah Williams, who's solid in himself. But they're just going to continue to get better. I mean, the Cardinals have had one of the worst offensive lines the past few years, and I think it's really only going to get better. So with all that being said, I think Trey Benson is definitely someone to look out for when it comes to a breakout season this year. So the wide receiver might be the worst kept secret in fantasy this year. We're rocking with Xavier Worthy. You know why? Because everyone saw the Super Bowl. That's really what it's about. It's not just about that. But we saw, like, Xavier Worthy took that next step, that deep threat step that I didn't even think he had. Like, everyone knew he had speed, and if he went anywhere else, you never know, like, how his career may pan out. But obviously, Kansas City was the perfect place for him. But then from there, I mean, gosh, he just took it to another level in that game. And honestly, Marquise Brown, you know, he is good, obviously. But who knows how long he stays healthy. He's been on and off for the past few years. And Rashee Rice, good Lord, nothing. I mean, he could drive down the street. He could tear his ACL. He could literally do anything. And he's been a fantasy staple for a lot of people. And I think if he had his personal life in check and didn't have injury history, I mean, this is probably the person we're talking about. But I think with the fact that we're involving Kareem Hunt, who had a resurgence, and also getting Isaiah Pacheco back in a more consistent way, even adding Elijah Mitchell, they're really going to have a rotation of power backs, guys who can push the ball into linebackers' chests and through the A-gap. So really what we're going to look for is that play-action pass. Mahomes probably isn't going to want to run around like he used to. So we're going to look for those play-action passes down the field. And I think Xavier Worthy is going to be that person that breaks out. And we're talking not just, you know, maybe he's top 5. or top 10 rather. He could be top 5, top 3. That's really what we're talking about. We're talking about, could he get 15 touchdowns in a season? You never know. It depends on the kind of work he's done this offseason mentally. But I also think another aspect that we're not looking at is Travis Kelce. I mean, dude's 35 years old. He's not going to get any better. They're not going to keep adding targets to him. They're going to use him in certain situations, and he's still probably going to have a good year. But, oh my gosh, I don't think people are ready for what Xavier Worthy is about to do. I could be wrong, but man, I think it's going to be real. All right, and finally, we have our tight end. This might come as a surprise to some people, honestly, but I'm going to pick Dalton Kincaid. This is somebody who I really liked coming out of the draft. Really versatile, like receiving tight end. He could stretch the field. He could drag across the field. He was a good route runner in the slot and in the seam. But that's the key word, the seam. He was amazing in the seam, beating the linebackers, splitting the safeties. But what do you mainly need in today's NFL when you're seeing cover 2, cover 3, to be able to beat the seam? What do you need? You need to stretch the defense. And the Bills weren't able to do that. That's the honest truth. They had Josh Allen and James Cook, who ran the ball a lot. And, they set up some opportunities but for like deep balls, but there really wasn't anybody stretching the field. And I think the Bills realized that. And I think they changed things for the better for their offense. So let's look at their wide receivers. Their wide receivers, in a lot of ways, are the same. We still have Khalil Shakir, who's someone I considered as a breakout candidate as well, to kind of take that next step. A lot more catches. I really liked Khalil Shakir. But what I'm looking at is the fact that they're adding Joshua Palmer, and they drafted Keon Coleman, who's going into his second year. Those are 50-50 ball guys. Those are stretch the field kind of guys. So we all know that the Bills need to stretch the field with play action pass because they can run the ball on anybody. But what they need to remember, and what we need to remember, is the fact that they took this tight end in the first round. And think about Josh Allen getting over the hump. Tom Brady had Gronk. Mahomes had Kelce. Josh Allen needs a tight end that can be a difference maker in special situations like the seam, and that's how they're going to win games and get over the top, I think. So I think they know that. I think they're a smart enough organization where they will do that. So, like I said, Dawson Knox, he's a solid tight end, but I think Kincaid can really stretch that seam, and I think he's going to take the next step this year. I honestly do. So that's the breakout candidates for now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share and comment, all that fun stuff. But more importantly, tell me what you think. Tell me how wrong I am, how right you think I am. But either way, God bless you guys. Have a good day. Take care.